Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and we've got plenty to talk about this morning. As you can see in the title of the video, is Erik ten Hag's job safe at the end of the season? David Ornstein from The Athletic has been speaking about it, and he's given some updates in relation to the manager and whether he'll be here next season. We'll speak about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about Jadon Sancho. Some reports have been coming out in the last 24 hours or so suggesting that Borussia Dortmund do want to make the deal permanent, and Manchester United are certainly open to that. And finally, guys, we do want to talk as well a little bit about the Dan Ashworth situation. There's been an update by Luke Edwards in the Telegraph in relation to Dan Ashworth leaving Newcastle, coming to Manchester United as the director of football, and what it all entails. Starting to drag on a little bit, so we'll talk about that as well. But as always, get your thoughts and comments into the comment section below. Smash the like button, hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let's jump right into it. But yeah, we're going to start obviously with Erik ten Hag, guys. And David Ornstein in The Athletic has been saying that there is no reason to suggest that Erik ten Hag will be leaving Manchester United at the end of the season. He's been speaking about this in The Athletic, and he's basically coming out and saying there's no indication, there's nothing coming from the club, there's no I suppose, interest in other managers. There's no reports on that. And it's positive news from a Manchester United standpoint if you want to keep Erik ten Hag as your manager next season. And I am one of them people. I think he does deserve a chance to stay on as Manchester United manager and work under the Ineos group and under the new structure that's coming in. But again, I mean, we're in that kind of phase now where, you know, between now and the end of the season, it's going to be results that determine whether he stays on, regardless of, you know, David Ornstein. Now, look, David Ornstein is a tier one journalist. He knows what he's talking about here, and you know, you can take what he says as, you know, pretty solid. And if he's saying that there's nothing to suggest that Erik ten Hag will be leaving United at the end of the season, then that's fantastic news. You know, we heard a couple of days ago that Erik ten Hag is being spoken to, and his I suppose his opinions are being sought after by Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, and you know, the structure above him in relation to transfers, in relation to the pre-season tour as well. He was part of the I suppose the planning of that as well. So look, I mean, there's nothing at the moment to suggest that Erik ten Hag will be leaving Manchester United at the end of the season. I hope he doesn't. I hope he stays on. I hope he's given the opportunity to, you know, to try and turn around a really poor season and make up for it. And I've said on multiple occasions that if we're talking this time next year and we're getting similar, you know, results, maybe with a stronger team, and of course the summer transfer window has an awful lot to do with it. You know, we spoke yesterday about now the fifth place in the Premier League. It looks nearly certain that that's going to be going to the Champions League spots next year. And we spoke a little bit about, can United maybe close that gap and get into the fifth place? Now that remains to be seen. You know, and I was getting a lot of pushback on it, saying, why would you want to get into the Champions League? We've got a terrible squad and a bad team and so on and so forth. However, you know, a lot of people are not kind of realising that we do have a transfer window between now and the start of next season. And there's been talks of big money being spent. You know, obviously we want to get players off the books. We'll speak about that in a few minutes as well. But I think Erik ten Hag deserves the opportunity to, you know, try and rebuild Manchester United under a proper director of football, a proper owner, a proper CEO, a proper scouting network, and with some proper players. And I think that's the most important thing, proper players, because we've seen not just this season, but last season with Erik ten Hag, that when we lose a couple of players, all of a sudden the intensity levels and the quality levels of this Manchester United side completely drop off. We seen it last year when Martinez got injured and Casemiro was suspended. Manchester United's levels just completely fell off the edge of a cliff. And for us to be where we are in the Premier League table this season, when you look at the likes of Chelsea and Newcastle and so on and so forth, I think Erik ten Hag is doing quite well with what he's got and what's available to him with the amount of injuries that we've had. So I do hope Erik ten Hag gets to stay on next season. I do hope he is in charge, you know, for at least one transfer window under the Ineos the Ineos regime. And if this time next year, we're not getting the results that we want, and maybe we're outside the top four and so on and so forth, then I think it's okay for Jim Ratcliffe and the new ownership to maybe look at changing Eric Ten Hag. But for now, I would like him to stay. I really, really would. I would like him to stay, and I hope he does stay. But let me know what you think in the comment section below as well, guys. Danny says, the question all Manchester United fans are asking is, will Eric Ten Hag be Manchester United manager next season? Nobody knows. The game against Liverpool will play a big part in that. Yeah, look, not just the Liverpool game. I think, the end of the season is going to have a massive determination on whether he will stay or whether he will go at the end of the season. Again, like I said, I hope he does stay. I think he maybe deserves the opportunity to stay. If he goes, he goes. And I've said this before in relation to Ten Hag and in relation to Ineos coming in. If they decide that Eric Ten Hag is to go, then he's to go. I'm not going to get too sentimental about it. I would like to see them bring in a good manager in place. I think, like we've said before, I think if Eric Ten Hag wasn't our manager and this was happening to somebody else, I think we would be looking at somebody like Eric Ten Hag. So I don't see why we wouldn't leave him there and give him the support that he deserves, and the support that he hasn't really had between now and when he first took over at Manchester United. Just a quick sip of coffee here. Now, guys, I want to move it on a little bit, and I want to talk about Jadon Sancho. Reports have been coming out from Bild in Germany in relation to Sancho and a potential permanent move to Borussia Dortmund at the end of the season. The report says that Manchester United want to get rid of Jadon Sancho at all costs and are ready to take a huge financial loss. United are willing to accept a price of 30 to 34 million for him from Borussia Dortmund. The report then goes on to say that Man United have signalled their interest to Borussia Dortmund in getting a deal done for Jadon Sancho and are working out an agreement with the German club to create the perfect transfer deal. Now, look, I want Jadon Sancho to go at the end of the season. I've made my point clear on this on a number of occasions. I think he's a bad apple, in my opinion. I don't think he's professional. I think he's playing at his level now in the Bundesliga. I don't think he's up to Premier League standards. I'm disappointed it didn't work out at Manchester United because there is massive talent there. However, for him to come out and done what he done and, disrespect the manager and subsequently doing that, disrespecting the club, I think is a huge negative. And for that reason, I would be moving him on. I have to say, I really would. I think he's an influential player in the dressing room as well, especially with the English cohort, the likes of, obviously, Marcus Rashford, and you've got Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, so on and so forth. And yeah, I just think he's a bit of a bad apple, I have to say. And I think if we're looking at moving him on, 30 to 34 million is a huge financial loss, as it says there. What did we spend? We spent 85 million on him, I think, was it, or something like that? It's a massive loss. However, the question remains is, if we were to keep him and if we were to, maybe reintegrate him back into the Manchester United squad, is there ever really a chance of him maybe improving that price tag? Probably not. Is he worth more than £34 million? Probably. I think there will be negotiations done in the summer. However, I do think that all of the balls are in Borussia Dortmund's court here. They really are, because they know Manchester United are desperate to sell. They know Jadon Sancho is desperate to stay at Borussia Dortmund, given the history he has with the club. And yeah, they're going to use that to their leverage. Now, it all comes down to how good Manchester United and the new board and the new structure and directors of football, how good they are at negotiating. Could they potentially get that 34 million up to maybe 50? I would be a lot more happy with 50 million than I would 30 million. Absolutely, because it's all about reinvesting this money. a big clear out is needed at Manchester United in the summer, and Jadon Sancho certainly falls into that category. He is one of the players that we could get potential big money for. Now, we do know that we need a big overhaul, so the more money you can get in, obviously means the more money then you can go on and spend. If we can get 50 million for Jadon Sancho, it will allow us to reinvest that money wisely and get a... You would think maybe, you would probably say, I mean, you could go out and get a ready-made replacement for Jadon Sancho, maybe an up-and-coming young player for 30, 40 million maybe. Again, that remains to be seen who that is. There's been talks of maybe Michael Olise from Crystal Palace. So you will get Olise in, you will get Jadon Sancho off the books, and it's a net zero, which is good for Manchester United. If we're going to have maybe a transfer fund of maybe 150, 200 million going into this transfer window, getting a net negative for or a net neutral for Jadon Sancho in or out and Michael Olise in, then I think it still leaves you with that 200 million to go and reinvest in other areas. So we need to be smart in the summer transfer window. Jadon Sancho is worth more than 34 million, and I would be disappointed if he goes for that amount. I would want to see closer to 50. Now, again, maybe 30, 35 million with add-ons and bonuses over or installments over a year or two. Okay, maybe rising to 50 million. I wouldn't be against that entirely. But he is one of the players, to reiterate, that I want out of Manchester United. The negative mentality players, the playing for themselves players rather than the club and the team and the collective. He's one of them. Anthony Martial is another one. We all know what's going to happen with Mason Greenwood. It looks like he's going to leave as well. So, we need to be cutthroat. And again, I say it, and what we've said in the last few weeks and months is that the sentimentality needs to go from Manchester United fans when it comes to getting rid of these players. Look at Man City, for example, and how they move players on. Raheem Sterling, Jesus, for example. Okay, your time is up, bosh, gone. And they get somebody else in. And that's the way we need to get. There's too many United fans that are, and I think it's the younger generation more than anything else, that tend to support individual players more than the actual club. We see it with Jadon Sancho. We see it with Marcus Rashford. We've seen it with Cristiano Ronaldo as well. There's some fans of Cristiano Ronaldo that support whatever club he's playing for, and it's nonsense. We need to be cutthroat. Whatever's best for the team, for the club, then move it on. I think Jadon Sancho certainly will fall into that category in the summer, and let's try and get him on and get him out. Finally, guys, do want to talk a little bit about Dan Ashworth and his potential move from Newcastle to Manchester United. And Luke Edwards in the Telegraph has had an article in relation to this, and he says Newcastle want to speed up Dan Ashworth's exit as Paul Mitchell heads a shortlist of candidates to replace the Manchester United-bound sporting director. The compensation talks over Ashworth remain a priority, and Newcastle Chief Executive Darren Eales has taken a lead role in those negotiations, which are believed to have been amicable. Now, this is positive. However, I want it to be done as quickly as possible. I think the sooner, and it's quite obvious, I mean, the sooner we can get the likes of Dan Ashworth, get his feet in under the table, the more positive it's going to be for Manchester United going into the summer transfer window. And again, look, I don't know what's going on in the background. Dan Ashworth is on gardening leave with Newcastle, and is he giving his opinions already to Manchester United in the background? I don't know. I don't know if that's allowed. I don't know if he would want to do that. If it is the case, then what's the point of a gardening leave at all? I think the quicker we can get Dan Ashworth in, make it official, and get him in working with the club and working with people within the club to identify players and really go and attack this transfer window in the summer, I think the more positive it will be. I think Manchester United have got a big opportunity. I think this is a massive transfer window for United. I really do. We see Jurgen Klopp is leaving Liverpool. We see, again, this is probably next year. I have a feeling Pep is probably going to leave Manchester City at the end of next season. So we need to get our ducks in a row, because there is a big opportunity. to maybe shift the power balance of the likes of Liverpool and Man City. I think Arsenal are best placed at the moment to do that. Now, this all depends on if there is a downward curve from the likes of Liverpool with Klopp leaving and Man City when Pep eventually leaves. I think naturally they will be. And it's about being well placed when that occurs for the likes of Manchester United and Arsenal to take advantage of it. And maybe a Newcastle if they can get their act together over the next couple of seasons as well. So getting the likes of Dan Ashworth in place, scouting, identifying players, putting the systems and the structures in place to allow Manchester United to be successful with the likes of Eric Ten Hag, I hope. Dave Brailsford, Omar Barada as CEO. There's a big opportunity there, and it's one that Manchester United need to grasp with both hands. I hope this doesn't run on too much more. Dan Ashworth moving to Manchester United. I think if it does, I just don't want it to run into the summer. I just don't want it to run. And we've got to be realistic here. We've got 2 months, pretty much 2 months before, we're really going to get into transfer season. 2 months' time, we're talking the middle of May. Now, you would be hoping it can be done by then. If it's not, then it's going to be a big concern. Again, I go back to what I've said, are Manchester United speaking with Dan Ashworth in the background on who maybe he wants or potential targets? I don't know. If not, it's a big concern. And the quicker we can get this done, the better. Because, like I said, we've got a real big opportunity to position ourselves to potentially, I'm not going to say challenge City and Liverpool because that would be premature. But if there is a drop-off from Manchester City and Liverpool when their managers leave, you need to be positioned and you need to be ready to take advantage of it. And given the backing that Manchester United have, the funds that we've got, the new structures coming in, it's an ideal time for Manchester United to go and do that. Whether we can or not, that remains to be seen, because a large reason for being successful will come down to recruitment. And we know Dan Ashworth is going to be head of recruitment. So let's hope we can get the job done between now and then. But guys, that's it for the morning news show. Please do smash a like on the video. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you're watching, we're live actually on Twitter as well for the first time. So if you're following on Twitter, or if you're not following on Twitter, do hit that follow button as well. It helps the channel out a lot. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. The link is on my homepage. We do the majority of our content over on YouTube, so make sure you're subscribing there. Daily content in relation to Manchester United, so make sure you're subscribing over there as well. Guys, I'll be back tonight as well with the 8 o'clock show as always, so please do smash a like on the video, hit subscribe, turn on notifications as well. You will get notified as soon as we go live. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.